morning, folks. Good to see folks coming in this morning, and the regular crew as well. Looks like we have a Surly Dev. It's funny, Surly Dev says, I was literally here watching a video on demand to Brent, and now I get fresh Brent with a fresh coffee. Oh, Sequel Emmanuel, welcome. First time you got one from the start, huh? It's really funny. So I have asthma. And first thing whenever I start talking in the morning, the first thing when I get up and start talking, whenever that is, I immediately cough several times. This has nothing to do with COVID-19. I've been tested for that too, as recently as like 2 weeks ago. And I always forget that I should go talk before I get on camera, because I get up first thing in the morning and then I don't actually go and talk until I come on screen with you fine, polite people. So it's dark 30 out here in San Diego, 5:31 in the morning, and I am working on TempDB. Good morning. Good to see you, Matt. Good to see you as well. Dimitri, good. A bunch of the training folks in here. So a couple of y'all who have, like Matt and Dimitri, who have the live class season pass. So what you're going to see me working on this morning is actually a trick that I want to put together for mastering server tuning, my mastering server tuning class. Andrea says, any plans to start selling your recorded videos here in the EU? The problem is that the EU was only about 5% of my revenue when I used to sell to the EU. And so I have a tough time. Should I focus on 95% of my customers or should I focus on 5%? It's really tough. And it's just so much person hours in order to be GDPR compliant and like feel comfortable if I was going to go face an auditor. So it's on my list. It's just not very high up on my list. Surly says, did you get the swab down the throat and nose? Yeah, I had the swab go straight up the nose. And I'd heard legendarily about how bad that was. People are like, oh, it's terrible. It feels like they're sticking your brain. So I'm laying down in the chair when they do it to me and they, shoot the swab all the way back there. And I'm like, it didn't really bother me that much. But what was amazing afterwards was I could breathe easier out of that nostril. I have really thick allergies, and all of a sudden I was like, I could breathe clearer through that nostril, and I could smell clearer through that nostril. I was like, ma'am, I don't know what you just, went all the way back there, but could you go do the other ear too? And she's like, A, I've never heard anyone ask that before, and B, no, because we're kind of like low on swabs. And I was like, okay, that's kind of fair, I guess. Vasi says, good afternoon from Russia. Paul says, hi, boss. Howdy. Eamon, good to see you again from United Arab Emirates over there. And for Peta, good morning, Brent. So what it is that I want to do, so I was telling Dimitri and Matt there, so what it is that I'm working on in this morning is I've wanted for the longest time, Surly says I swatted the nurse's hand accidentally and grabbed the swag. I pulled back 4 or 5 times. I don't know why. I got lucky with that one. I don't know why it seemed like it wasn't that big of a deal to me, but I guess I'm just kind of lucky that way. And I certainly don't want to make it seem like I have like a Saudi Arabia. That's right. I always screw that up. But I don't know why. I don't have like a high pain tolerance by any means. I'm a total baby. It's just like absolutely. So the thing that I've wanted to do for a while for mastering server tuning was I wanted to write one query that hammers TempDB in a whole bunch of different ways. Now, something that's important to me inside my classes, though, is I always want the queries to seem realistic. I don't want to be like cross-joining from tables that produce, gajillion results. I want it to look and feel like something that an end user would actually write or a back-end process that would actually run. Something that people mean to do good, but then it just backfires in all kinds of hilarious ways. So Vampire Brent lives. Hi, Jorge, Sequel Chicken. Oh, good to see you. And this is actually like normal, Brent. I'm usually up at 2 a.m., 3 a.m. I just have to wait before I start broadcasting to y'all. So if I think about the number of ways that we can hammer TempDB, let's kind of write them out. And I'm going to just start doing the demo live. What I'm going to do is I'm going to first start out by taking notes of what are the different ways that we could go and hammer TempDB. So I'll say, what hammers TempDB? Want to become famous? Yeah, no, I'm actually pretty good. Let me block a couple of those users so that I can get rid of those. Oh, salam, good afternoon from Paris. So what hammers SQL Server's TempDB? And I'm going to put these out in no particular order, just brain dumping things that come across to me. So let's say when people create temp tables, when queries spill to disk, so I'm going to say spill to disk, inadequate memory grants. What else spills to disk? The version store. Version store. Surly Dev. That's right. I need a mod to take care of those for me. Surly Dev. True story. I run on inbox 0, meaning that I try to have nothing in my inbox other than actions that I immediately take. You are one of 3 emails in my inbox right now. Setting up that featured.chat and making you a moderator in here. Those are the 3 things inside my email box right now. So the version store, triggers. So for triggers, Richie, not it. The virtual insert, update, delete. Oh, no kidding. Typing mod takes care of that right away. Okay, watch this. Let's go see twitch.tv/Brent Ozar. And then let's go over into the chat and we'll say mod surly dev. There we go. Granted moderator privileges to Surly Dev. All right, that was easy. Ta-da! Thank you, Surly Dev. I appreciate your input here on the channel and for showing up. It's always cool to see you. You always have good input. Now, I can immediately see a bunch of the rest of people going, type mod my name. So these are 4 ways that queries constantly hammer TempDB, maybe sometimes without knowing it. So what I want to do is I want to write one query that triggers as many of these, no pun intended, triggers as many of these as possible, kind of accidentally. Well, in order to get the version store, I'm going to have to enable the version store. I'm on SQL Server 2019 here, and I'm just going to go over here into the Stack Overflow database. Ace Flameseer, mod me, exactly. So let's right-click on here and go into Properties. And then if I go over into the options for the Stack Overflow database, either enabling RCSI or snapshot isolation will be doing it. Everybody be liking the sorts. So if I turn on RCSI, what that does is turn on optimistic concurrency, aka MVCC, multi-version concurrency control. This is how Oracle behaves by default, and he's right actually. How Oracle behaves by default, and how Postgres behaves by default, how Azure SQLDB behaves by default, and you can't turn it off. What this does is every time you're doing inserts, updates, and deletes, SQL Server's automatically tracking a copy of your changes over in TempDB. So as soon as I turn this on, I'm going to immediately have a higher overhead in TempDB for modification queries. So it just kind of gives me a thing inside here. Look at him. Da, 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 da. Woo! Or I was going to say suck it trolls, but suck it trolls also works as well there. So I've got that turned on now. To change the database properties, actually, I'm going to say no. I'm going to go script it instead. This is what, see, I give him moderation capabilities and the guy can't even spell. This is how my life works. I'm not known for especially good decisions here. So let's go grab that and we'll put this in our little breadcrumb trail list of things that we're going to go build in order to... Is that where your other hand was? Yeah. So here we're going to go turn on RCSI, so that takes effect instantly and we're off to the races. Surly Dev's never going to live that one down. That one's going to be a little bit awkward. And yes, Richie, yeah. And also, Richie, I hired you to keep me out of the security business. I think that's really, or security and systems administration type database administration business. Whew, I'm not someone who should be, whoa, ooh, So that's a first step. Now, this also means that as part of this, the query will need to do modifications. I'm going to need to do inserts, updates, and deletes. So I need to build a query. Let's think about the pattern that I need to build to write as few lines as code as possible to make it seem like a user kind of stumbled into all these bad behaviors. I need to write a query that modifies a lot of data, ideally holds a transaction open as long as possible. Alex Kati, what do you want me to do about it? What do you want me to bring you up to speed? This is what restreams happen. Oh, Lee Brown, yes, absolutely. All the streams, everything that I do hangs around on Twitch, YouTube, Facebook, Mixer, like everywhere that I broadcast, you can watch all the replays for forever. I say forever. Some of the providers don't leave the videos on for as long as I'd like. Some of them only leave it on for, say, 14 days or 60 days, but whatever the max length is, I just leave them all on. So I need to do a query that modifies data, holds a transaction open, ideally as long as possible, uses temp tables, and hits triggers. I'll write the triggers in a while, or ideally one trigger. I want to do as few triggers as possible. But I need a query that does a transaction, temp tables, and modifies things. So what's a single query that we might do? And I'm not really asking you. I'm doing storytelling. I don't really give a damn what you think. I don't love my hair, actually. But so Erica and I were talking. We're like, is it time for us to do another haircut? And we're like, what would happen if we just let it grow long again for a while? So she's been cleaning up the bottoms and the sides, but we've been letting it grow long. True story. So my hair, when Erica met me, my hair was all the way down to my chin. So I would tell you that I was aiming for the Kurt Cobain look. In reality, I looked like a mushroom from Mario Brothers. It was not good. I need to go through and find one of those. No, I'm with you. I would never do anything like that. I do like the long chin length hair. It just doesn't look good on me. It doesn't look good on me at all. My favorite haircut ever is there's one stylist in Chicago who does a great job, but unfortunately I'm not getting to Chicago anytime soon. And I'll go short again whenever the quarantines end. LX Cotty, that's an interesting question. If only there was some kind of engine that could help you with your search. Maybe there was some kind of way that you could ask the internet questions and it would give you answers rather than showing up on a random person's Twitch channel and ask them. That's very intriguing. Someone should invent that someday. Nah, probably not, because who would ever be smart enough to use it? I'll stop there. So, now every now and then I will actually take open questions and answers, but I'm not going to do that here during this session. But bless your heart, it is hard to find that kind of thing. It's not really hard to find that kind of thing. So, inside here, I need to write a query that's going to do batch updates, or do updates across a lot of stuff. Now, the one that I've been thinking about, because I've been thinking about building this for a little while, is there's this badges table. Brent's not random. Brent is indeed very, very random. So I'm going to say select top 100 star from DBO badges, and then I'm going to go over I'm going to go into the right database first. Idiot. Alex Kati. Yeah, I can see why you would think that I'm just hanging out waiting to answer random questions for you for free. I can see how you would think I can't really see how you would think that was the case. Oh, yes! Surly Dev is exactly correct. That is exactly correct. Change my lighting just a little bit here. So there's this thing called badges where you can go and earn stuff like who's asked a good question. Who hasn't asked a good question? Who's posted a good answer? Who's a guru? Who's resuscitated posts from the dead? So these are granted, some of them can be granted live and in real time, like if you hit a certain threshold for answering a whole lot of questions or asking a whole lot of questions. Others can be updated in the background periodically. It's not like we need transactional consistency. It's not like badges have to be exactly accurate. So let's go look just because we're in here, we'll go look over at stackoverflow.com so you can see how badges show up on the public site. When you click in, oh goodness, and start, the hair. Grumpy Game Dev says, is there an I don't have any badges badge? That could be one that I could write. That's an interesting thought, Grumpy Game Dev. I might actually use that as the badge that I go and write. Oh, wow. So Deadpool, it turns out Deadpool has a Stack Overflow account. That's actually kind of interesting. Richie is correct. So here, Code in the Dark. Okay. All right. That's cool. So the badges that this person has earned, here are his badges. So Deadpool has gotten the Organizer badge, Citizen Patrol, Peer Pressure, Requisite or Inquisitive, all these things. So we can go hit View All Badges, and you can see everything that this person has owned. Well, I kind of like the I don't have any badges idea by the Grumpy Game Dev, and I think we're going to do that. Let's come up with our own badge. What should the name be? Because we need a short name for somebody who doesn't have any badges. I don't want it to be sexually subjective or anything like that. I don't want it to be like too fiery or racy, but just something that suggests in a humorous way that someone has like no experience or hasn't earned badges yet. Let's see what we should do for that. And I'm gonna even start the pseudocode down inside here. Hi, Natik. So let's say create. I got to put a go up here first. So we're gonna say create or alter proc noob. Okay, yep, I like it. That works. Noob badge DBO USP grant noob badge, or we'll because I like the noob being at the beginning. I'm gonna say noob badge grant red shirt. Oh, that's even better. Oh, yes, the red shirt badge. That's it right there. So Oizoken, I'm going to grab that before it scrolls off the screen. Oizoken. So I'm going to start the change log in here. Woo! Not the DBA you're looking for. Bought my mug. Thank you. I appreciate that. Enjoy the coffee. So red shirt. So we're going to put in here for the change log. We're going to say 2020-0606. We're going to say the Grumpy Game Dev. What's the red shirt badge? So the red shirt badge is going to be usually in star. Hold on a second here. Let me switch. So over in Star Trek, when you see someone go beam down to the planet and they're wearing a red shirt, I cannot believe I have to explain this to you. I gave you a moderator badge. I thought you were smart. Exactly. Yes, the guy who gets killed on the away missions, or the person who gets killed on the away missions. So whenever you see someone beaming down to the planet in a red shirt, they're doomed. So I kind of like that because you think of them as like throwaway people. Well, to some extent, people will often create accounts on Stack Overflow just to post a throwaway question, and I don't want to think of them as disposable, but it's not like they're going to be around for a really long time, most likely. So what we'll do is we'll make it a combo. They have no badges earned, and they've been inactive for at least like 3 months or something like that. So we'll assume that they beamed off the planet and they met their demise. So let's say the Grumpy Game Dev started this. He say, grant badges to users with no badges earned. And then, exactly, yep. And then we'll say 0607, coding in the future, Oizoken, renamed badge to red shirt. All right, so now that y'all are in there, memorialized for fame, inside the webcast there, both excellent ideas. So now I've just started this, and I'm going to say for a parameter. So what we're going to do is I want something that's going to be able to rerun repeatedly, and ideally change users or do multiple updates at the same time. So exactly. Yep. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put in some kind of date range parameter. Let's say start date time equals null. and end date, date time equals null as begin and then end. So we have the shell of what we want to get started with. And you've seen the howdy, Jim. So you've seen the table now. So the table looks like this. Date time offset. No. I'm going to make an executive decision there. No. I like where you're going, but no. And the only reason I'm saying no is because nothing else in the Stack Overflow database uses date time offset, so I don't want to introduce that concept when I'm teaching, just because there are just only so many things I want to teach at one time. But it is kind of interesting, though. And if I was a good coder, that's what I would do. But of course, we're doing things as a kind of sketchy coder would do, because time is hard. You are absolutely right. Hi, Dave. Welcome to the club. So now I have this badges table. Now what do I need to do? I need to go find, remember our goal is to abuse TempDB up top in as many ways as possible. So I'm going to want to start a transaction. I'm going to want to have temp tables, and I'm going to want to modify data. So let's start by taking out a transaction for no apparent reason. Let's just say begin tran. Pasquale, you may want to watch back at the beginning of the session. We talk about what our goal is inside here. We're not necessarily writing good code. We're writing kind of shabby code. I agree with you if we were writing good code, but we're not. So we're going to do a begin tran and commit, and I might even purposely throw an error inside here at some point just to make sure that it rolls back, because I think that would be kind of comical as well. So begin tran. Now I'm going to say, just like now look, I will say that I am writing code that's kind of purposely bad, and I guess that's going to reflect badly on these folks, and that's their problem. Exactly. Yes, exactly. So begin tran, we're going to say, get the users we want to modify into a temp table. And Zeus Hero, you're absolutely right, but we want to make it realistic, though. This is part of the fun of my mastering classes, is that they need to look realistic and be relatively easy to fix. So let's say create table, and we're going to put inside there. So my goal is to absolutely abuse TempDB. So a good developer, all they would do is they would put the list of user IDs inside here. That may not be enough, but I'll just do a regular temp table with just IDs in it for now. I may come back. Grumpy Game Dev says a temp table and not an at table. Yeah, because what I'm going to end up doing is, I could do that. We'll end up seeing, I also kind of want to make it very explicit right from the get-go when they look at this stored procedure that, oh, it's hitting TempDB. Shantnu, you don't need try catch for a rollback. You can just do an error inside there that causes the whole transaction to roll backwards. So inside here, I'm going to say users who earned the badge, and we'll say user ID int. No, we'll just stop there. And we'll throw in a couple of other. We'll throw in last activity date, date time. So now let's go find the people who match. I want to find all of the users whose last activity date is within the range that we're looking for up here in our stored procedure. So in order to do that, we'll move it up a little so y'all can see the code a little easier. Insert into users who earned the badge, user ID, last activity date. Select ID, last activity date. From DBO users, inner join. Oh, no, not inner join. Oh, we'll do a subquery. Users love subqueries. Where last activity date between, or we'll do greater than, less than. Greater than or equal to start date and last activity date. Why the hell are you underlined? Why are you underlined? Invalid object name. In IntelliSense, why don't you go get a nice tall glass of refreshing refreshment? Because that is totally a table in the Stack Overflow database. What in the hell? Because, oh, no, that's right. Insert user ID. What in the hell? Why are you invalid object name DBO users? I am in the Stack Overflow database. I have a creator alter. Let's just try this. Execute. Oh, last activity. What the? I'm going to hit refresh on IntelliSense again here because this is absolutely bananas. Oh, is there a use master up at the top? Oh, nice. Oizokin. Woo. Damn. Wow. Oizokin. Damn. Wow. That's impressive. Use Stack Overflow. If that's what it is, Oizokin, you are, Oizokin, you're like my new hero, Oizokin. You are awesome. Oizokin, send me an email at help@brentozar.com, and I want to give you something for that, because those were two amazing ideas in a row. Those were utterly fantastic. Number one was the red shirt thing, and number two was that catch of the use master. It wasn't even on the screen. You brought your A game today. Not like the rest of these jokers inside here asking how to enable CDC. What on earth? Okay, so back over here. So is it not last activity date? No, of course not. It's last access date. So let's solve that one. And Dennis and the other folks, there was somebody else who caught last activity date. Oh, it was maybe just Dennis. You're good as well. Yes. Just not quite as good as Oizokin. Oizokin is, wow, holy smokes. You accident less than or equal to end date. Okay, so now we got that. Now I want to do the subquery. Bruno says users love subquery. It's true and it sucks. Yes. And I'll make this a little bit more nicely indented just to clean it up a little bit. Not quite as good as most end users would do, but whatever. So now, and not exists, select star from DBO badges where, and I think it's a user ID, I think is how that works. Yeah, user ID, where user, and let's minimize this so you can see the code a little better, where user ID equals UID. And if we're really good, let's prefix this just so that people can follow the code a little bit easier. All right, good. So what we've got here is we're dumping into a temp table. Whoops. Let's make last access date consistent while we're at it. So I'm dumping a bunch of stuff into a table, and this is, as a bonus, this will also be sensitive to parameter sniffing depending on what kinds of dates you pass in here. Okay, so now we've loaded up a bunch of stuff into a temp table. Next up, I want to go give them badges. The truly evil way to do it. Grumpy Game Dev says getting abdominal pain from the select star. It's actually not that bad, so check this out. So I'll go off topic here and do a quick demo. We'll say if exists select star from DBO users where display name equals Brent. Oh, we'll say the Grumpy Game Dev. The Grumpy Game Dev print found him. And then let's look at the execution. Exactly, yeah. Because of the if exists, well, there's no index on that. Of course there's not, because that's the way the world works. Create index. I'm not going to create the index right now. But what you end up doing is SQL Server will use an index seek rather than a table scan, just because as long as there's an index on display name. He doesn't have to go back to the clustered index in order to get the select star, which is kind of awesome. And Teja says, I thought if exists was a good kind of subquery. Yeah, I could make it worse, but I'm just starting with users love subqueries as opposed to left outer joins. I prefer left outer joins because for me, they're more intuitive and easier to read, but to each their own. Okay, so we got that list. Now I want to go through and give them the badges. So I want to go give them the red shirt badge. What? Matthias. Okay, Matthias, we're not going to just randomly paste things into chat here today, all right? That's cool. Okay, so I appreciate you wanting to share that with me, but as you can kind of guess up there, I'm not going to play around with that. So now we need to go grant them the badges. Part of me wants to do it in the least efficient way possible. Part of me says that what I should do is I should start a cursor. I should start a cursor and then loop through those rows individually. See, Grumpy Game Dev, you and I are on the same page there. I don't know that I want to abuse the students quite that badly, because one of the things in my mastering classes is I try to give people queries that they can diagnose, find the root problem, and solve it within 30 minutes. I use this 30-minute hourglass a lot inside the classes to emphasize that you want to flip this over and make as much progress as you can in half an hour. I don't know that, yes, not the DBA you're looking for, me and you as well. I have that fetish too as well. Oh, Matthias, cool. So I don't know that I'm going to push them quite that hard, but if I was going to go do this as like an exercise for the blog post readers who have a relatively unlimited amount of time, a cursor is exactly what I would do. So back over here, I'm just going to do a flat out insert. I'm going to say insert into DBO badges, name, user ID, date, select, select, what do we have here? From the temp table, users who earned the badge. So we're getting, the name of the badge is going to be red shirt. I think Stack Overflow badges have spaces in them, so we'll put that in. Red shirt, user ID, get date. This is the date that they earned the badge. So this would be fairly simple and straightforward. Like this is a totally realistic query and it would work, but let's kick it up just one level and make it just a little bit uglier. Let's also make sure they don't already have the badge. Now, granted, we've done it up here already, but I'm going to kind of cobble things together the way that users might have accidentally cobbled queries together over through the years. So I'm going to say left outer join DBO badges be on you user ID equals B user ID and we'll move it over a little just so it's easier to see on one line. And badge name equals red shirt. So then we'll say where B name is null. User hasn't earned the red shirt badge yet. All right, so now we have something that's decently realistic, and it's going to produce just bad enough of an execution. Oh, Oizoken, yes, I love it. Yes. So let's say inner join DBO users, you on, you user ID equals UID, and then we'll get the, I'm going to add this in as U creation. Oh, it's not U. It's, oh, damn, I used the U alias twice. I'll call this B. B user ID, and then we'll say U creation date. And I'm going to have Shamville. I love this. So Shamville, I'm going to write your name down too before this goes away because I'm going to we'll put this up in the change log because I got another idea here that I'm going to like a lot. 2020-06-08 Shamville Kazmi. Remove badges if they become active. Oh, that's such a good, because you know what I'm going to do with that is I'm going to make that in the trigger. Yes. Oh, that's going to be sweet. I love it. That's just fantastic. Oh, that's so cool. Oh, yes, the grumpy game dev, U1 and U2. I love that too as well. So added to grant them the badge retroactively. Just so that this kind of confuses things up just enough, we'll call this U and then U1 or U date. Well, we'll call it U1 in honor of that terribly bad idea. U and then U1. And that works beautifully. And then we need to get U user ID. And then this is U1 creation date. I love it. That's fantastic. Oh, it's lovely. Okay, so and MacGenie 01, good catch on the badge, on the reuse of the B table. I didn't catch that either. I just happened to catch it without seeing yours. Okay, I love this. So what this is going to do is it's going to lock the badges table, and it's not going to generate changes in the version store, though. You know what I may also want to do? While we're in here in this transaction, let's make it as if the user's last activity date was just now updated. So let's also update their UEB would be clearer. Yeah, except we're trying to kind of be just a little bit unclear in here. You may want to watch the beginning of the stream we talked about it. So I'm going to also set their last act. Is there another? No, let's give them reputation points. Yes, that's what we'll do. So what we'll do is, Teja, short answer is no. I mean, short answer is yes, it can, but it's beyond what I'm going to go into here, just for the sake of this. So what can I set that's going to cause a change in here inside the users table, thereby triggering more stuff inside the version store? I like the thought of giving them a reputation point for this. The reason why I want to give them a reputation point is I don't want to screw with their last activity date, because there are other things up here involving their last activity date. So we'll just give them a reputation point. So we'll say, give them 10 points for bravery during inactivity, I suppose, whatever. Update DBO users. Oh, no, 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 no. Let's go back to our temp table. Update you from users who earned the badge. Now I'll use Matt's UEB just because I think it's funny to use different aliases at different places. So from users who earned the badge, enter join DBO users, U on UEB user ID equals UID. Then we'll update you, set reputation equals reputation plus 10. Okay, so now we've given them 10 reputation points. That's going to log stuff over into the version store. I'm happy with that. So now we have a transaction. We've got our insert into badges. This stuff should take some time. I love it. I may even also, if I want to prolong this transaction a little, what I may want to do, yep, Zeus Hero, yes, absolutely, but I'm just writing one. I'm going to leave that aside and keep going. Great question. I'm not going to address it here, though. I want to take you out behind the shed and no. Okay, hold on. So I'll answer it. I'll do justice to it. Okay, so Zeus Hero said, and apologies for the short reaction, because I was like, I think you're trying to trick me to go down a specific way, and I don't want to go down that way. But it's actually, I bet you're asking a question that's different. The more sessions that I have, does that make the version store larger? Yes, if they're doing inserts, updates, and deletes. So with this stored procedure, though, it's just one stored procedure, and I want it to mimic something that would be back-end activity, things that are happening over time. So it wouldn't be something that I would go and amplify and run across a whole lot of sessions. I like where you're coming from, but I'm going to try to build a longer, drawn-out like batch process thing, where I'm going to pass in really large date ranges to this. Grumpy Game Dev says, so if a red shirt should happen to earn another badge, should he lose the red shirt? Yes, and this comes into, remember how I said at the like top of the text file, I said there are a bunch of things that can hammer TempDB, and one of them is triggers. This is why I got so excited I want to go back and get his name right because it was really cool. Shamville's suggestion. Shamville said remove badges if they become active, and I utterly adore that. So what I'm going to do is I'm also going to add triggers on the badges table. I'm going to add a trigger on the badges table that says every time a badge goes in, check to see if that user has the red shirt badge, and if so, revoke it. And that's going to hammer TempDB even more. So I absolutely love that. Shantnu said you had users without a badge, then the next start. Correct. Shantnu, yes. Go back and watch the replay and you'll understand how we got to where we are. Okay, so now let's go back and see. So I have this stored procedure, and I think it's going to work. Now, in order to make sure that this thing is actually using TempDB, I want to be able to measure how much it's using TempDB. And one of the things that I love for that is Atom Mechanics SP who is active. Atom Mechanic has this brilliant stored procedure called SP who is active. It's totally free. It beats things like Activity Monitor. And what it does is it gives you a list of sessions that are open right now. One of the columns that it has inside here is TempDB current. And to demonstrate it to you, I'm going to go create a temp table over in another session. I'm going to say select star into temp users from DBO users. I'll go create this temp table. Welcome to the club, Johnny Buchanan. I'll go create this temp table, then go run SP who is active while this query's running, and so now I can see, Richie says, microservices, Richie, we should do it in Amazon Lambda. We should have a queue, service broker. It's like whack-a-mole for managers and technology terms. So it's really cool. It'll show you, now that line disappeared just now because my session is asleep. So I can say show sleeping spids, I want to say is the, show sleeping spids equals 1. Yeah, oh, what's show sleeping sessions maybe? That blows because I really want to see, well, I'll do another query inside here. Select count star from DBO, badges with index equals 1. So while this query is running, if I execute over here and then pop back over and run SP who is active, here you can see that's actually not correct. I think I might have just found a bug in SP who is active. I hate it when that happens. So what I think is happening, and I don't know this yet for sure, I'm just going to make a note of that, actually. Hold on a second here. So I always keep, I guess I could do it on a text file, I guess. No, I'm just going to write it down on a piece of paper. So who is active? TempDB. What I think is happening, TempDB allocations. What I think is happening is that Adam's SP who is active is probably only showing the, should we log the bug in TFF? There's a name I haven't heard in a long time. What I think is happening is that there are two columns in here, TempDB allocations and TempDB current, and I think one of them is a bug. I think that TempDB current is correct. I think that TempDB allocations is incorrect because that session does still have stuff in TempDB. Like if I go do select star or select top 1000 star from temp users, this session still has stuff allocated inside TempDB. And Eamon, it's really sad, but you're right. Like I have an alternate reality where I'm a quality assurance tester and I go and work on other people's stuff because it's just horrifying the bugs that I find that people are like, how did you even... So what something inside here is still not registering that I'm actually using TempDB. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to actually try hitting it again. I'm going to say select star... Yeah, let's just try select star from temp users, and then while that runs, let's go run SP who is active. Yeah, it still shows no, oh man, damn. Okay, so we have a bug inside there. Richie's right. So Richie, Joris is my developer on my team, and so whenever I check bugs in for stuff, he's the one who gets them. Now, to be fair, they're usually my bugs. They're usually bugs in my code. They're not bugs in Richie's code. I'm not smart enough to catch the bugs inside of Richie's code. All right, so the thing that was, the reason why we went off on this tangent was, I said I wanted to be able to show you how to prove that this thing was actually using TempDB. I may not be able to do it with SP who is active the way I wanted to quickly demo it. So instead, what I may just end up doing is, I may end up just running with this code as is for now and not showing you how to prove that it's got space in TempDB, because there are only so many things that I want to go teach you during the course of one live stream. So I got a stored procedure, and it's hammering TempDB in a couple of the interesting ways. It is doing work inside the version store, but and SQL Emmanuel says time to whip out SP Blitzwho. That's a fair point, SP Blitzwho, because it would be funny if we had the same bug, because it could also be a bug in SQL Server itself. I don't think we return it. We don't return it by default, but if I say expert mode equals 1, it might be one of the columns inside there. So to test it, let's go see select star into users from DBO users. And then let's go run it and see what we get. Let's go look over at, yes, okay. Ooh, ours is even in megabytes. Ooh. So I have TempDB allocations in megabytes. Now I want to go see if I have the same bug over here. I'm going to go see. So now my session is sleeping. It's done. The bug that we were hitting with who is active was that when I ran it a second time, the query didn't show up. I don't think it's going to show up in here yet either because we have our own show sleeping kind of parameter. Then, oh, cranky old bastard. Good point. I'll do that here in a second. I want to say it's show, I can't remember if it's show sleeping spids equals 1. It might be something else. Oh, it is that. Oh, beautiful. Oh, I love it when a plan comes together. SP ask Brent. And now look at that. So it may well be a bug in SQL Server itself. I would lean toward it being a bug in both in SQL Server, just if both SP who is active and SP Blitz who report the same thing is wrong. No, Emmanuel, no, it's wrong. Both of us are scoring 0. So now I'm at an interesting point. So should I continue showing you the stored procedure angle? Let me go change that for cranky old brilliant fella. So since it's no longer called a noob badge, we're going to say grant red shirt badge. Grant red shirt badge. Good catch for that COB. Let me save this on my desktop, and then I'm going to present y'all with a question, and I'll see what y'all want to do. So let's switch over to here. So the thing is, the sun is starting to rise here in San Diego. You have me for about another hour and a half. I will give you a choice. Because I'm going to do both of these things. It's just I may not do them this morning because I also have a client starting at 9 a.m. Side note, if you ever need me on an emergency, you can call me and hire me over the weekend, which is what I'm doing for a client this weekend. It's not cheap. You can get me over a weekend. So what you can, Johnny B. Cat said, did you update the change log in the stored procedure? No, I'm not quite that good of a developer. Thank you for the question, though. So I'm going to give you choice between two things because I don't care which one I do. I'm going to do whichever one you don't choose. I'm going to do after hours. Just it's going to be later. It probably won't be on a stream. One option is to continue showing you the trigger type stuff in building up more hammering into TempDB. So choice 1 is TempDB. Choice 2 is to investigate that bug in SP who is active, first responder kit, etc. Or if it's a SQL Server bug that's rendering the wrong results into how much TempDB space a session has. So in the chat or in the comments, put in 1 TempDB or 2 the SQL Server bug, and I'll let you choose your own adventure there. And we don't have like a scientific number kind of poll, so we'll just see what things come in with here. Wow, so most of you are on 1. Still, it's coming in kind of mixed here. A lot of folks coming in on 1. We'll see here.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
It seemed like most of the ones that went by were 1, so I'm going to focus on that. And then maybe in a separate stream, I'll go investigate the SQL Server bug type thing. Arpit, the answer to your question is no. Okay, so let's go pop back over here then. And we'll discard that little bug, and we'll probably a very big bug. Jorge Segarra may still be on the stream. Jorge works for Microsoft. I'm sure he'll pick this up to open up the source code and chase that down. I'm sure that will be the case. So now what I'm going to do instead, so I have this grant the red shirt badge piece inside here. This is probably Zeus Hero. Look, man, you're not my real dad. I tend to not schedule my streams in advance, my free stuff. I just do them whenever my personal schedule permits. If you want to see my live schedule for paid training, go click on training on the top of my site. Those are scheduled almost a year in advance. These are just winging it based on free time when clients don't hire me for stuff. So I got this stored procedure. I'm happy with the basics of this stored procedure. I probably need to test it to make sure that it works. But the second part of this is, I said up at the top, there are all these things that hammer TempDB. So I nailed down in this one stored procedure, I have temp tables. I do have the version store. I'm going to put that up ahead. So these two are done. Now what I don't have yet to do is spilling it to disk, getting SQL Server to make a bad estimate in terms of the number of rows that are going to come back, purposely estimating on the low side, and then getting an avalanche of rows to come back. So what do I need to do in order to cause that? Things that get a memory grant are, just among the headline news type stuff, things that get a memory grant are order by, if I do a sort, joins, hash matches, group by, and adaptive joins. Those are the ones that I usually run into. Order by is one of the biggest ones. So if I do an order by, what if instead of granting everyone activity or granting everyone the badge inside here, what if I think of doing this inside a loop, like it's a batch process that's going to run from time to time, and I want to get SQL Server to lowball the amount of rows that it thinks is coming in. Let's make this red shirt badge stored procedure. Let's make it a back-end process and say users to process int equals 1. Now what we're going to do is that we're going to call it, no, 1 is unrealistic. Let me say 100. Let me say 100 inside here. So Matthias, listen for a second. I am not doing CTEs with passwords here. I get that you are randomly massively in love with CTEs with passwords. Stop. I'm not interested in this demo. Thank you. Moving on. I can be joking like that with Matthias because I know him and he's a genius, very smart, and I like him and his work, but very, very smart person. I like Matthias a lot. But so in here, so I need to get it to order by. So when I'm going in here and doing this, I am going to order by, and I need to come up with an order by that SQL Server won't have an index on. Now, I do have indexes on last access date. This is Justine. Love you too, bro. Hugs. So I do have an index on last access date. Normally, if I think about fast processing, it would be it would use the index on last access date. So as I'm designing this load test, or designing this lab, I want to make sure that I don't have any indexes on last access date. The version of Stack Overflow that you're seeing on screen here is exactly the version that I use in my mastering classes. And, oh, Pinal, welcome to the club too. Pinal, you're right. Oh, I love this because, so how can I do that by end date? So end date is a parameter coming in, but I could order by, because if I order by last access date, let's go order by creation date. Let's order by their user's creation date, creation date. So that works pretty well. Welcome Subin7 and Colin Stevens to the club. And you know, because we've been going for almost an hour, I should stop here and do two things before I go further. Hold on a second here. So seeing Pinal reminded me, Pinal and I are doing a webcast for Quest. If you want to ask us any performance-related, database administration related questions, whenever Pinal and I get on screen together, we always have a hilarious time. Lots of shenanigans ensue. Pinal is one of the funniest, fastest presenters you will ever have the pleasure of seeing. I know a lot of you recognize Pinal from his blog, SQLauthority.com. You have constantly done Google searches in order to find an answer to something, and he's given you clear, easy to copy syntax where you go, here's exactly how this function works, and you go paste it in. Pinal doesn't often do videos online that are totally public, and often he shows up at conferences. If you're not getting the chance to go to a conference anytime soon, this is your chance to go see Pinal out in action, and he is hilarious. So between the two of us, we're really just, it's amazing that Quest is allowing us to be online together, and it's, I'm sure, going to be a ton of fun. So you can register for that totally for free over at brentozar.com/go/experts. It'll be, I want to say it's an hour-long webcast, and I know what's going to end up happening is that a ton of people are going to end up registering. This is the problem that we had with our last webcast with Quest. They had a 1,000-person limit in the webcast. We actually hit it, and people couldn't get in. So if you're planning on going, register, and then you have to show up a little early as well. Registering won't be enough to get you in there. and thank you for saying we're both funny. So just make sure that you go in early that morning as well. So that's brentozar.com/go/expert. I agree with Ann Shore. Penal's blog has been a lifesaver, they say. All right, so we'll stop here for a second and go to a bio break. We'll take a 5-minute bio break. I will go refuel my coffee and take a quick bio break, as they say. 5-minute break, and we'll come back in here, and then I'm going to talk about the memory grant process, how we're going to trigger this thing to get a really high memory or really low memory grant, and then we're going to turn right back around and make it spill to disk like crazy, further hammering out TempDB. Then we'll finish up by writing the trigger that will hit over on the badges table as people earn a badge that disqualifies them from their noob badge. So I will see y'all back in here in 5 minutes.
Release the Kraken! Release the crack. The crack.
All right, welcome back. Howdy, folks. Yes, Bruno says, "Where are the channel people chats?" You're on it. Yeah, I have a little thing called Restream that shows chats coming in from YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, all that stuff. I agree with you that I think Mac Genie. I agree that Twitch is the best. Twitch, at least, is my favorite anyway. Taurus, that live streaming event will be held only for the business owner, not from students. I'm not even sure what you're asking there. You're on the live streaming event. We're here. Welcome. Hi, I love you. That's not entirely true. Watch. That's actually pretty good there. I like that. All right. Welcome to the club, Dr. Moulis. I appreciate it. My animations aren't right now. That reminds me, I got to go talk to the guy who built these. It's not showing the text in the right place. So I've pinged him about it, but the guy's really super busy. I like the way the new outlines work with where everything's about. Oh, Johnny says the Quest live stream. The Quest live stream is, let me go back over to that. The Quest live stream is June 24th at 12 noon Eastern time. If you register for it, they'll also send you the instant replays when that becomes available. It asks for a lot of business owner info. Yeah, totally, because of course what they do is they have to pay people like me and Penal. You think we're cheap? Oh, hell, I mean, like, I'm $5. That's all I charge, $5 for a webcast. But Penal, it's $10,000. $10,000. That's how rare it is that he speaks. You should totally go attend. That's not true. We both charge money. So that's why they want a lot of business info, is that they're going to turn around and try to sell you Quest products, which is fair. I actually used to work for Quest. I worked for Quest as an evangelist way back, 2008, 2009. And I loved it. Like their products are solid as hell. They have just teams of developers around the world, QA testers, huge support team. I am amazed by how many people it takes in order to run a business like that. It's just staggering. It's huge. Okay, so when last we met, SupalDBA says, will the Quest session be recorded and posted? Yes, but it's only posted to people who signed up for the webcast. It's not like put out for free on YouTube or whatever. You still have to register in that same page. That same exact page will actually work the same way after the recorded webcast. It's just that you'll immediately get access to the recordings instead of seeing us do it live. What is money? I believe it. It's when Erica and I first got married, I always really wanted kids, and she was dead dead set against kids, and now there's no way I could do it. I have too many unbelievable number of toys that I like to play with, and that's not compatible with children. Okay, so when last we met, we were writing a stored procedure, and I said that we're trying to hammer TempDB in as many ways as possible inside one realistic stored procedure, a stored procedure that it felt like end users might actually write. And I said that a few of the different ways you can hammer TempDB is you can build temp tables, so we've got that under control. We got stuff in the version store, we've done that. And I said another thing that you can do is get queries to have an artificially low memory grant, have SQL Server think that they hardly need any RAM in order to execute, then turn around and have that thing flood with data so that it ends up spilling to disk. Let's try to inject that into our stored procedure. Now, our stored procedure already has a start and end date parameter. So what I could do is I could send in a really tiny date range and make SQL Server think that there's hardly going to be any data. Then I can turn around right behind it and run it again with a much wider date range, thereby flooding it with data. Another thing that I can do is I can make sure, now Teja says drop all indexes and statistics, and that's true. I do that in the mastering index tuning class. I'm not going to do it in the mastering server tuning class because it isn't realistic, because people have indexes inside their tables. But what I'm not going to have, Teja, I'm right real close to you, is I'm going to make sure by looking at that query's plan that it can't have the indexes that it wants yet. I'm going to start with just making sure that it doesn't have the indexes that it wants. Then I'm going to add in a sort to make sure that even if it does have the indexes, it'll still get a sort. So I'll show you how I do that. So here's our stored procedure, and the parameters specifically, I've got this orders to users to process. Hold that thought. I may not even need that. I was thinking about that over the break, and I try to keep my stuff as simple as possible, and I'm going to try not to use that. So I'm going to knock that little fella out because I think I can get by without it. But back over here, so Pinal had suggested, hey, why don't you put a sort in here by date and just get, say, the top 100 users to process at a time. Now, for those of you who haven't gone through the mastering query tuning classes, just FYI, SQL Server calculates memory grants differently when you do a top 100 or below than top 101 or higher. So I'm not going to use 100 because that'll introduce an artificially low memory grant, but then SQL Server won't need that much. I'm going to go with a higher number than 100, something that's more similar to batch processing. I'm going to say 1,000. Select top 1,000. Now, if I have an index on last access date, then what SQL Server is going to do is it's going to seek directly into the ones on that last access date. But if I throw in, Tora says I don't have any business. Have you ever lied before? You know how when someone asks you if you have any bad habits and you say no? You know how when someone that you want to date, when you see someone really attractive across the hall, you go over and try to talk to them and they say, oh, how are you doing? And you say fine? That's called lying. You do it all the time and you don't even know about it. Just because it's on the internet doesn't mean you can't lie. I'm going to give you some news. It's probably going to break your heart. There are a lot of lies on the internet. I know, you think that just because it's written on the screen, it must be true. But just because you see it on the screen, written in those finely crafted pixels, doesn't mean it's the truth. Teja, I am saying that you are allowed to lie on a registration form. I'm giving you official permissions. So, I'll leave now. I like that, right? Yes. Okay, so back over here on this. So I'm going to say top 1,000. Even if I have an index on last access date, I'm going to sort by something else. I'm going to sort by creation date. Hi, Crazy Tech. So I'm going to sort by creation date. So what that's going to do is SQL Server will be able to seek into the rows in a range for this creation date, but I'm going to give you, or this for this last access date, but I'm going to pass in a staggeringly large number, and so SQL Server is going to have to sort them by that creation date. Let's see what we get in terms of memory grants. Daniel, welcome to the club. Thanks. I appreciate the subscription. So let's go see what happens, what kind of memory grant this thing gets. So let's put our stored procedure into production. Let's go do our create or alter. And then I'm going to go execute it. For those of you who haven't seen, there's this really cool slider thing up here. There's this little right up at the top. Over up at the top, there's this slider, and you can grab hold of this and drag it down. And now you have two windows on a stored procedure or whatever file you're working on. I really love that so that I can have the creator alter up there, and then I can see down at the bottom later when I'm trying to like do the exec, I can see what the params are. So I can say exec USP grant red shirt badge, grant red shirt badge, start date equals. Now for beginning, because I'm going to get him to artificially estimate a really low memory grant in the beginning, I'm going to say 2020, we'll say an old date, 2009-0101, end date equals 2009-0102. Now let's see when we go to execute this thing, and all I'm going to do is get the estimated plan. Surly Dev, yes, I approve your friend's request. So if all I do is get the estimated plan, what I'm going to do is go look over here at this select. So here is where I'm going to find, oh, even better, it's got a key lookup. So what it's going to go find is the users whose last access date was inside that range. Let's go see how big of a memory grant this thing needs in order to do its job. So the memory grant, desired memory is just 1.6 megabytes. That's perfect. It's a tiny little memory grant, hardly any memory at all. What happens if I change those parameters to be a staggeringly large date range? What happens if I turn this into, say, 2020? So if I say 2020-0102, so like 10 years worth of history, now let's see what kind of memory grant this thing wants, and it wants 2 gigs. Perfect. That's fantastic. Mosin, you suck. Show up on time. No, just kidding. We didn't have a start date official. Mosin, you're welcome to, but just don't ask questions, because if you miss the first hour and 10 minutes of the webcast, you're not allowed to ask questions. So in here, if I go for a much wider date range, SQL Server wants like a 2 gig memory grant. Perfect. Mwah, chef's kiss. So what I've got is my perfect little scenario here, where I'm going to start by triggering a parameter sniffing issue. I'm going to start by doing it for a very tiny date range. Then I'm going to turn around and run it for a much larger date range, and I'm going to see if it spills to disk. So let's start by just running it for a small narrow date range. I don't actually know if this thing's going to work, because remember, this is the first time we've ever actually executed this thing. So let's go execute, and all right, cool. So here's our execution plan. Here's the thing with the memory grant. This is where I'm worried about, or where I'm hoping that SQL Server asks for a really tiny amount of RAM, and sure enough it does. Now, those parameters have been set in stone. Oh, no, this might actually work. Okay, so let's go through and run it now for a much larger date range. I expect this to take a long time because we are inserting a lot of rows into the badges table. That's okay. That's a separate problem. While it happens, though, let's go see how badly we're hammering TempDB. And I'm going to use SPBlitzWho only because it has that TempDB metrics, those TempDB metrics in megabytes in terms of cost. So I can see it hasn't gotten to the point where it's putting data into TempDB yet. So I may execute this a few times just to see if it ends up showing up. But let's see here. How far over was it? It was 2. Nope, he's still at nothing. So just as a fun side demo, if I Tessel RX, do you just like to spit out random facts? Are you like do you like one of those, you like the little daughter in that Tom Cruise movie? The average human head weighs 5 pounds. And you're completely wrong regardless anyway, Tessel RX? Like, you're not even close. You're not even remotely close. The correct answer is over there. But you're going to have to go get a pair of binoculars to see it. That's how wrong you are. You're not even in the same country as the answer. You don't even know how to phrase the question. So back over here. My query finished, so he took 1 minute 12 seconds. That's perfect. That's good. It's long enough that it'll cause problems for people who are running over in the lab. Now let's go look at the execution plan, and my goal is to find out, yes, sweet. So this thing spilled to disk. So that's fantastic. It spilled to disk, wrote like, hey, thank you, Johnny. Welcome to the club. I appreciate it. So those of you too who want to support me by doing the kinds of things that Johnny just did, what you can do is if you have an Amazon Prime subscription, you can join Twitch Prime totally for free, and then you can subscribe to the channels that you want with Twitch Prime, and then the creators get money every month, even though you don't have to pay anything, which is kind of cool. So back over here on this. So crazy Texas, I love this stream. So over here on this is exactly what I wanted. SQL Server lowballed to the memory and now ended up spilling to TempDB. That doesn't mean that it actually wrote to disk, though. It may not have written to disk because SQL Server for the last, since SQL Server 2012, there's a service pack and cumulative update where they tried to be more conservative with TempDB, and SQL Server will only flush the writes down to TempDB if really necessary. So the next thing that I have to go do is I have to prove that this thing is actually writing to TempDB. Now I know that we talked about the bug earlier on, possibly a bug in SQL Server or a DMV where SQL Server isn't surfacing the right amount of data about how much we're changing over in TempDB. I know how to fool that. I know another way that I can get to it through another stored procedure called SP-Blitz first, where I track reads and writes on files as things are running. So we'll do that over in a second. See just on the other side if there's anything else that we had from, looks like there's a sort down there on the second part. There's a sort down here on the second part. Oh, this is kind of excellent. Okay, remember early on when we were coding this, and one of you suggested, I don't remember who it was, but one of you suggested that we should use a table variable instead of a temp table. If I use a table variable, it's going to play into our favor here because SQL Server will incorrectly estimate the number of rows that are going to come back out of that table variable. Right now, it's using the stats on the temp table to estimate that 1,000 rows are going to come back. I can screw with it here even further by using a table variable. That'll cause another spill to disk here. I'm going to do that only because it's easy and because often people know that table variables have that problem of incorrect estimates. So let's go switch this into a table variable. Let's say declare users who earned this badge table. Insert into users, not the DBA you're looking for, said, I thought the SQL 2019 fixed that issue. It does only if you go into 2019 compat level, which triggers so many other problems that it's kind of quite a laugh. All right, so now we've got our table variable version of it. Let's go put that into production. And now when I alter it, I get a brand new execution plan. So I have to trigger parameter sniffing again by running the very tiny date range. And then when I go back to run the very large date range, I'm going to make a change this time. I'm going to go run in another window. I'm going to go run SP-Blitz first. Seconds equals 90. And I'll explain what that does as it runs. So left-hand side, we're going to run we'll switch positions here between these two so I can do this a little bit more effectively. Save you over here. So I'm getting ready to trigger my problem query over here. Query's going to take last time it took 90 seconds to run. Who knows if it's going to take that time. You know what I should do is I should delete the rows with, let's go delete the red shirt badges. Delete DBO badges where name equals red shirt, just to get those out of the way so that we can reset our execution again. Oh, that's right, it only did 1,000. Okay, that's kind of cool. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to run this query that I know takes 90 seconds in order to run, and I want to measure what it does while it runs. So how do I do that? Over on the left-hand side, I'm going to run SP-Blitz first for a 90-second sample. So start that, and then over on the right-hand side, start this. So what does SP-Blitz first do? SP Blitz first takes a snapshot of a whole bunch of dynamic management views, things like wait stats, the plan cache, file stats. Takes a snapshot of a whole bunch of stuff, waits for 90 seconds, takes another snapshot, and compares what was different across that 90-second time span to tell you what happened. It doesn't trace individual query activity, so I'm not seeing how many writes to TempDB were done by this stored procedure. I'm just looking at things like TempDB activity overall on the server. One of the sections that I'm going to get back 90 seconds into this thing, I'm going to get all kinds of diagnostic stuff, but one of the things that I'm going to get back over there is a section of file reads and writes. So for every data file and every log file that had a lot of activity during that time span, SP Blitz first sorts them by stalls descending, shows me the top 5 files with the most stalls descending in the last 90 seconds. What I'm looking to see is, does TempDB show up on that list? Now, over here on the right, so some of the problem that I had was a data caching issue. So here, Sandeep, can you be less specific? So over there, this thing finished in like 1:07 this time, which is nice. If I want to push even more activity in and out of here, I can do a higher number of rows. So now, over on the left-hand side, here I have, woohoo! So when this thing ran, it pushed 60 megabytes worth of data to TempDB. So we have a partial success. We've gotten somewhere. Now, 60 megabytes, is it a lot? No, but now we can start ramping up the way that this query is written in ways that'll trigger it to have different problems. So how do I amp that workload up even higher? One way that I could do it is that I could use a higher number here for the top. Instead of just doing 1,000 rows at a time, maybe I could think big data and batch process all the rows at a time. Now, if I go back over here and look at the plan, we have our spill to disk. So this is activity against TempDB. This is activity against TempDB when we're building stuff into this table variable. The updates are activity against TempDB when we're doing inserts, and the updates are activity against TempDB for the version store. The insert isn't that bad, though. There aren't that many. Let's amp this thing way the hell up. Let's go, instead of 1,000 users, let's go throw, Richie says this would be so much better. Yeah, and also unmanageable. Let's say 100,000. Let's start with 100,000 and see what happens. And see if this thing hammers it any worse. So we've already set our snapshot on. I'm going to go ahead and just comment some of these out, just so that I can hit execute on this a little easier. So now we got our exec in there, and we got this in. Emmanuel, thank you. I appreciate it. Thanks for subscribing. Thank you. Thank you very much. So let's go put our stored procedure into production, and then let's go run our small version of it to trigger parameter sniffing issues. Then we're going to run the large version of it. Emmanuel says, I forgot I had Prime. Good. I know that feeling too. And then I'm going to execute SP Blitz first, and I'm going to start the big grant over here. So I expect this to take at least a minute. The one on this side I expect to take at least a minute, because now he's doing 100,000 rows instead of just 1,000. No, damn! It's a party now. Thank y'all. I appreciate it. Very cool. Cheers. Thanks for Jim Van Allen as well there. So I expect this thing to take like a minute in order to run, and then when it finishes, we'll go find out. Tajarub says, if you run it a second time, it'll reduce do you do the subscription on Amazon? No, once you link your account, go to my Twitch page, and then you can subscribe from there. So Tajareb says, if you run it a second time, it'll reduce the spill, right? So that was a yes, and thank you for starting it, actually. So that is true if you're on 2019 compatibility level and it backfires so badly that most people don't turn it on. Because basically what you get is you get a memory grant that was optimized for the last set of parameters that were run. what you're saying is true if you run the same parameters twice in a row. If you always run every query twice in a row on SQL Server 2019, the second execution is always faster. I don't know that that's a good thing. Thank you, Pankage. I appreciate that. Welcome to the club. Thanks for subscribing. So this thing took 1:26. Oh, look at how beautiful that timing was. That was just fantastic. So it took 1:26 in order to execute. Let's go see how TempDB did during that 1:26. And we have, oh man, we didn't track any writes to TempDB during that time. Woo! I like subs. That can be read a couple of different ways, just so that you're aware. One is subscriptions, the other is something else. And that will, I don't care which one you're referring to. I like them either way. You are both fine for me, so I'm down. So we've got that out of the way. I'm not happy with the performance inside that, Jim. That's true. I'm like that. I'm like, I'll, thumbs up people's videos and stuff when I like them, because I'm always like trying to encourage creators to go do more of whatever it is that I like consuming. So I'm not really wildly thrilled with that. Let me go back over and look at the execution plan. Now, we did spill. SQL Server still reporting spilling like 60,000 pages to disk here. We've got the table variable activity happening. That we also now have the spill here. This is good. This is what I was really aiming for. It was making sure that we spilled, instead of estimating one row, it estimates one row and we brought back much more. So unfortunately, Orestes, you have a point. There's actually three methods then, three things that sub mean, and I like all three. Well, four, of course. There's submarine sandwich, or not just sandwiches, but actual submarines, and I guess I like those too. Wow, that's really cool. So you probably shouldn't Google or look for things like this on the Urban Dictionary or whatever. That's probably a bad idea right now, especially on a Saturday. Your relatives are probably home and they'll see. You don't want to do that. So over here, so I've got this. This subs on a team. So, yeah, that's true too. Wow, how many different meanings for the word sub are there? So let's go see sub dictionary. That's kind of amazing. Wow, filter by all, naval, railways, chemistry. Wow, that's kind of amazing. Submarine sandwich, a substitute, a subscription. Yep, okay, that was us. Yeah, lower in rank. Oh, sub as in lower. Okay, that's kind of cool. Wow, that's really, let's go look at Merriam-Webster. Let's go see what it means. So let's see here. Suburb. Okay, I'm not sure about that. Subordinate. There are way more things than that. But we're not going to dig deeper into there, because then we're going to immediately go off and we're going to find the one that I'm referring to, and things are going to go south very quickly. All right, so we've gotten better, but it's not still fantastic. We might have a good time with this with concurrency if we try to multiply this across lots of sessions at the same time. But this is kind of, I'm going to stop for a second. Where this first came up was that Dimitri, who may still be on the webcast, I hate yelling people's names out because, I don't want them to all of a sudden go, oh, I got to pay attention. But Dimitri, who was on here earlier when we started the webcast in our mastering query tuning class, Dimitri was like, hey, how much do I need to worry about things like table valued parameters? Welcome to the club, Mac Genie. Very cool. Thank you. I appreciate it. Woo! Yes. Yeah, what's the other term for that? Depth charge. Depth charge is the other term I think we hear in America all the time when you drop a sub and drop a shot of liquor inside a bowl or bowl of beer. Where the hell is I going with that? Okay, so anyway, Dimitri brings up this thing in Mastering Query Tuning, and he's like, how much do I really need to worry about table valued parameters being passed between stored procedures, or temp tables being passed between stored procedures? Is that something that I really need to worry about from a performance perspective? Tejareb asks a great question. When do I decide to create a clustered index on a temp table? It's another good example. People go, well, how much should I be concerned about temp tables? And I'm like, you know what? It's pretty rare that I see TempDB as a big bottleneck on servers in the year 2020, as long as two things have happened. Number one, they've created at least 4 TempDB data files. Anytime you read anybody's setup checklist, they'll all say create at least 4 TempDB data files. Sometimes they'll say 8, depending on whose stuff you read. I'm fine with either of them. They're both totally acceptable as a starting point. Just one is usually not enough. So, Mark, thanks. Welcome to the club. Woo! So, as long as you do that, and then the second thing is you put it on reasonably fast storage. And what do I mean by reasonably fast storage? I jokingly refer to people all the time as, oh, Dimitri says this is why I'm here. Oh, perfect. I'm glad you're here. So I always refer to people as my iPad. I'm like, look, I have a terabyte of flash storage inside this thing. So if your SQL server should really have at least a terabyte worth of flash storage for stuff like TempDB. Now, if you have a really tiny TempDB, it may not be that big of a deal, but if you're worried at all about performance, put 4 to 8 TempDB data files in there, call it a day, make sure they're on decently fast flash storage, and that's kind of the end of that. Gawabunga says, is memory optimized table worth it? That was one of the things we were going to explore. If I can push workload hard enough at it, if I can make the workload be really ugly while still being realistic. Because I see people do fake demos out there. Like Microsoft did this when they brought out in-memory OLTP with TempDB. They're like, watch this, and then they do atrocious code that out of all the people in the world, there may be like 3 people who write code like this. I'm like, we shouldn't be focusing on that in mainstream SQL Server. It just shouldn't be that big of a deal. So I am now in the process in this session. I love that. So it's a Solitaire Kid. You're an hour and a half into a live stream. Do you do that in your day job? Do you walk in an hour and a half after work started and be like, hey, what's up? I see y'all's doing some work here. What do we need to do? If I was your boss and you tried that stuff, I would fire you so fast. That's not really true. It's hard to fire and find good help these days. Right, Richie? I'm just kidding. Just kidding. Seriously, just kidding. AJ says, love your sessions. Probably because I'm a little bit of a jerk. Manny asks a good follow-up question. Manny says, so how many TempDB files should I do based on CPU cores? So depending on who you listen to, they're going to tell you either start with 4 or 8. I'm fine with either of those. If your SQL Server only has 4 cores, just stop at 4 files. If you have up to 8 cores, stop at 8 files. If you have more than that, just stop at 8 cores and call it a day. Shift Clan says, how's your day going? Thank you. I appreciate it. Those are nice, excellent words. Thank you. Very nice. Arthur says you're funny. And D. Tovey says, should TempDB be on a different partition? So for me, it comes down to, do you actually have different spindles? Do you have different storage for TempDB as opposed to your data and log files? If you don't, then it's kind of like, what's the point? The thing that I worry about is somebody blowing out TempDB, because effectively anybody can do a denial of service attack on your SQL server by dumping stuff into TempDB and causing TempDB to fill up. Well, if TempDB is sharing a volume that other databases are on or that your C drive is on, that's where I worry about you running out of space and effectively having a denial of service attack on the SQL server. Johnny B. Cat says, how many files if I were to put it on a Raspberry Pi? Well, given that the licensing on SQL Server on Raspberry Pi is kind of messed up, like right now the only way you're allowed to use it is if you are shipping a production application with it. It's not like you're allowed to just go buy it for home use. So it's like Developer Edition only would be all you could really license it with, and you're not going to go into production with Developer Edition anyway, so screw it. Who cares? D. Tubby says our company policies is to put everything on the C drive. Well, so much for that. So now coming back to the whole thing with Dimitri. So we built this stored procedure, and it's not really hammering TempDB that hard, even though we're trying to do things that are somewhat antithetical. The next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to go build a trigger on top of the badges table so that for every row inside the badges that goes into the badges table, we're going to go do checking. And of course, I should do that with TempDB as well if I'm really going to try to hammer this thing. Lim says, should we be concerned about TempDB if we use Azure? Sure, absolutely. Why not? Okay, so when I do that, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go take our last bio break. I'm going to take a 5-minute bio break, go refuel the last of my coffee. I'm going to order my bagel from downstairs because the dawn is rising here, and 8 a.m. my coffee shop downstairs open, and I'll be downstairs for that. AJ says, would it be possible to share the code? No, what I'm going to do is that's part of my mastering server tuning classes. So if you're in my mastering server tuning classes, you'll get access to that, but otherwise, no. Manny, you're insane. Yeah, no, that's not what it does. Okay, so we'll take a 5-minute bio break, refuel my coffee before and go order my coffee from downstairs, and I will see y'all back in here in 5 minutes. Here in my place, it's 5 minutes after the hour, so I'll see y'all back in here at 10 minutes after the hour. Be right back. Right, so that's our bio break there. Now, when last we met, I said, oh, you know what I should do is I should add a trigger on the badges table, and I should use TempDB to do it. No, you know what? Because Dimitri's in here, because Dimitri and I were having a conversation about really hammering TempDB. You know what we should do is we're going to do something really terrible. You know how earlier we said we weren't going to do cursors? Well, if I'm going to really hammer TempDB, if I'm going to really cause contention, you know what I could do is I could force it so that granting a badge, thank you, Remus. I appreciate it. Very cool. Subscriptions help make sure that I get interested in staying interested in doing this, although let's be honest, I would probably do this even if none of y'all were around. So what I could do to really hammer TempDB is I could say, what if we forced all badge insertions to be done by one stored procedure? What if we have a stored procedure that takes table valued parameter in order to go add a badge? Or what if I have a stored procedure that takes a string and it'll take a comma delimited list in, a comma delimited list of users and badges that we want to add, and then it immediately dumps that into a temp table and then runs off of that. So I like the size of that. Sharich, that's not really related to what we're going to talk about inside here, but it's an interesting question, but you could check that out at dba.stackexchange.com. Not doing an open Q&A one here. I may do an open Q&A one in the future. Actually, when you want to ask questions, because several of y'all ask questions, go ahead and go hit this. So this is an open webcast where Panal and I will take your questions and do all kinds of performance tuning advice live. If you want to sign up to ask us questions, go over to brentozar.com/go/experts. And then you can go register for that free webcast and submit your questions over there. Now I'm going to go back to live coding. So for this, let's say that all of my inserts have to go through one stored procedure. Yes, Tejarab, I love where you're going with that. And the thing is, with a user-defined function, I may not be hitting TempDB, so in the interest of speed, just because I've got about 45 minutes left before my coffee shop opens downstairs, I might use the built-in function. I might use, oh, no, I can't. Oh, you're going to love, oh, I could do this. So, oh, there's some interesting ways that I could do this. Okay, so in here, if I go back and I look at my query here, right now with this stored procedure, right now I'm doing the insert directly here. A UDF forces it to single core. Yes, but I'm trying to hammer TempDB though. I don't necessarily want to slow down the CPUs. I kind of want SQL Server to be able to throw a lot of cores at it, but I want to press TempDB really hard. So what I'm going to go back to doing is I'm going to go back to saying that I need to, instead of doing this inside the same stored procedure, I'm going to go pass over to another stored procedure. I'm going to have another stored procedure that gives people badges. So I'm going to say, in order to do this, I'm going to have a child stored procedure that gives people badges. That child stored procedure needs to take something that's going to be passed back and forth in TempDB in a perfect world. Now, some of you might be saying this is what TVPs are for, table valued parameters, and that's true. But another thing that works that same way is temp tables. I can go create a temp table with the stuff that I want, pass that into the stored procedure, and have that stored procedure just use whatever was in the temp table. You know, I don't really like that solution. The more that I talk about it, I think I'm going to be kind of hammering that needlessly. Let's go back to the trigger. Let's go for the triggers. Surly Dev says a global temp table. Yeah, but the thing that I don't like about, and I love that suggestion though. I love that suggestion because for some strange reason, I have a sales call this week with a client that does all their work in global temp tables. Like the whole application is built around global temp tables. I have a lot of questions. So instead, so the reason why you might want to do that, it's early. I love that. That's actually really good. The reason why you might want to do it is that up in Azure for a while, you weren't charged for work that happened inside TempDB. Like there wasn't a scale limit, a performance write limit, or anything like that. They weren't doing any throttling on it. And Vakir, yes, you're absolutely right. I agree with you there too. So I've seen people architect things inside of TempDB like do their data warehouse staging inside of TempDB in Azure because that way they didn't have to worry about any cost penalties for it, like DTU limits. I don't know that I would rely on that for a long time. Like if Microsoft hasn't already closed that loophole, I'm sure they will. So what I am going to do though is let's go back and do the trigger. So we're going to say, thanks to, let me go back and get the person who had this idea, Shamville. Shamville said, let's remove badges if people, life finds a way. Let's remove badges. If someone earns a badge that isn't the red shirt badge, we're going to go yank their red shirt badge. So let's think through the trigger that we're going to need to write. What this trigger needs to do, it needs to, when a badge is inserted, check to see if that user has the red shirt badge. If so, delete the red shirt badge, and let's really screw them in terms of like versioning and stuff like that. Let's go subtract 10 points from their user reputation, because we gave them 10 points we gave them 10 points when they earned the red shirt badge. We're going to revoke that now that they've earned some other badge. All right, so how do we go create a trigger on the badges table? I don't know about you, but when I have to go do something like that I certainly don't very often, I'm going to go say SQL Server create trigger example. And let's see if we happen to find, let's see here. Dang it, Pinal, I was actually hoping that yours would have an example. Let's go see SQL Authority. Oh, ex-cammer, Blacksburg. Were you at the public education thing, Brent? They're all good dogs, Brent. Nobody probably got that joke. So we have inside. Oh, yeah, cool. I think I was supposed to be there in June. I don't know if y'all's offices are open back up yet or not. I have to go email the head honcho over there, who I love dearly. She is awesome. She's fantastic. And I'm not just saying that because I'm on a public webcast. I actually like her a lot. She's great. So our offices are closed. That's what I was afraid of. Do you have an opening date yet? Do you know by chance when you're opening back up? Because I think I'm supposed to be out there like the third week of June, and it's still black. Like that date is still blacked out on my calendar. I just figured I'd ask y'all just what you want, if you want to do remote training or what you want to do, or try again for later in the year. We can always go see. Not that we have to hammer everything out over Twitch, but there you go. And then I'm going to go talk. We have nothing planned. Oh, dang, geez. Which is kind of a blessing and a curse, right? Like, this is the coronavirus thing, is that a lot of us now, I feel like if I'm doing this, I should switch over to the other window. This is a blessing and the curse of the coronavirus thing, right? Like, it's good as a geek that we get to work from home, because we all have these jobs that are really doable from home. It's not like we need to be standing right next to the server in order to get our job done. But on the flip side, you miss the human interaction with people. I know that's something that I struggled with when I first started telecommuting, like 15, 20 years ago. When I first started telecommuting, I had a really hard time. I don't like people. I don't like strangers. Like, if you sit me down in a room full of people, I'm never going to talk to anybody. I'm going to be on my phone the whole entire time. Yeah, so like X-Camera says, I could be a hermit. Honestly, I have the same. I would love to just be holed away somewhere in a place with high-speed internet like this, and this is usually all that I need. Like, talking to people online is totally good. Recognizing regular names inside of Twitch, like, I have no idea what any of y'all actually look like. It doesn't matter. I don't care. We're just this community that gets together and hangs out. Cowabunga. That's sad but true. But back here, yeah, human interaction is important to connect with the team and the business users. Richie and I are in Slack all day long just chatting with each other. I'm a terrible manager, though. I have not seen Richie even in live. Please place the GitHub path if you can. Damn, dude, if you can't Google my name in GitHub, give it up. Hang it up. You see the window over there? Run and jump. If you can't use Google and find my GitHub, dude, that ain't my problem. That's your problem. Because you can Google my name and you find all kinds of stuff. Things you don't even want to see. You'll find it. You share the GitHub path. Damn. Yeah, so I think Richie and I in person have seen each other maybe 2-3 years ago. I mean, I don't know how long it's been. We stopped doing the company retreat, but we at some point, I keep going, oh, we should start redoing that, even if it's just my family and his family. But then at the same time, now the virus thing hits, and you're like, travel. I'm not quite so sure about that. There's a possibility that I'm going to go this entire, like a 12-month span, not leaving my house for work stuff. I last left my house for work stuff in early February, went to Puerto Rico for a client. Woo! Love that. Can we get you to come to Puerto Rico? Yeah, sure. And then they were nice people too, which is even cooler. But I might go an entire year without an on-site client visit. This is going to be kind of bizarre. I don't know exactly how that's going to go. And Jim's, there's too many stupid people out there these days. I'm amazed by. Was it last year that I came down to Coconut Grove? I don't know if it was last year. I don't think it was. I think it was further back than that. I think it's been a while. Aylin, good to see you. Howdy. It's been a while. But yeah, Jim, when I go out to, I'm going to go downstairs to my coffee shop in like 40 minutes, and I guarantee you there will be people walking down the street with no masks on, and they're faking it as I'm exercising. And I'm like, you haven't ran yet. You're not heavy breathing or anything like that, but they're just using it as an excuse. At least with my coffee shop and at most of the restaurants down here, you're required to have a badge or have a badge. That's have a mask on in order to go in. But now restaurants are starting to open. And Erica and I were thinking last night, we have a favorite restaurant that overlooks the water in San Diego, Costera. There's this Costera and Island Prime and Sea Level restaurant that's right on the water. They have great margaritas. It's like $15 for fish. It's not expensive. But geez, I don't know that I want to go back inside a place just yet. Mac Genie says, is there a Brent Ozart mask? There's that Stig helmet, and I did that, but that's about it. Wow, Richie, was it 2019? Wow, I'm surprised. It seems like it has been so long since then. Wow, that seems like forever ago that we actually got together down in Coconut Grove, did the rental office thing. Jeez. Yeah, Surly Duff says eating in a restaurant with a mask will be messy. So the way that they're doing it is the tables have to be situated at least 6 feet apart, and everyone who's at the table has to be in like they're calling a familial unit, like has to be part of the same family. People can't just sit down next to each other. So I'm like, does that happen very often? People usually sit down. But I can see how if you were Richie, yes, like, but it's weird. Like Richie and I have this job where, it's a blessing and a curse that we can just continuously live on without interacting with any human beings. It's kind of weird. And your reaction was priceless on my comment. Oh, great, thanks. Glad you liked it. So, all right, so let's write a trigger. So when I was doing the trigger thing, I said, when I write a trigger, or when I write any piece of code that I'm not usually familiar with, how often do I really write triggers? I'll just go in Google and get an example. I was trying to tie into Pinal's blog, and of course, sure enough, we have one example here. It took me a minute in order to go hit trigger one, which got trigger one. So let's see here. So let's go see what we've got for a trigger. So it's create trigger instead of insert as, and then go do some checking against it. Oh, I love that because that's absolutely terrible. Ooh, substrings and stuff. That's fantastic. So let's think about create trigger. And let's see, what was the example out of there was the name of the trigger on the table instead of insert. Instead of insert as begin and end. So the name of our trigger will be DBO revoke, and I probably got that name wrong. Nope, okay. Revoke noob. After insert. I was going to do instead of insert so that I intercepted their call, but you're right. Actually, an after insert would make more sense because I'm not modifying whatever they're inserting. All I'm doing is revoking one that was already done. So I like that. Not the DBA you're looking for. I like that. So after insert. So revoke red shirt on DBO badges after insert as begin end go. So if we'll do, okay, so who should we do? Not the DBA you're looking for. We'll put him in as the change log or her in as the change log. Change log, it's log, it's better than bad, it's good. Get that right there. So this is 2020-0606, not the DBA and I'm going to leave that terrible misspelling. Unforgivable. You're probably rate like length limited, right? Not the DBA you're looking for. So if they earn a badge, revoke their red shirt badge. So the first thing that we're going to go do is check to see. Now, you know what the most common error that I see inside triggers is? And I'm going to go pull this so that you can see it. Brent Ozar trigger bug. Because I see this constantly, and I'll go put it under, what? That's my website. That my website is not undergoing maintenance. Hold on a second here. Let's go look at my site and see what's going on. Because that shouldn't be happening. It would be really funny if it was in maintenance mode for some reason. Come on in, buddy. Whoops, exit. Refresh. Site is offline. Wow. Oh, there's bigger problems over at where do you turn on maintenance mode? So maintenance. Oh, you know what? I think it might be in my theme. Let's go look here. Watch Brent troubleshoot WordPress. Impreza theme options. My host is WP Engine, and they're actually really good. But let's make sure that maintenance is not on. Okay, maintenance mode is not on. All right, that's good. Let's blow the cache. Purge all caches. Okay. And then he says it's back. Okay, cool. Whew. All right, something went wrong in terms of caching there. Oh, that's fun. Okay, so now that I have that, let's copy paste that. And Johnny, maybe you were the problem, Johnny. I would like to blame you. So what I have here is a bug that I run into all the time inside triggers. People will write their trigger expecting that only one row is in the virtual inserted table. They just assume that there's one. Yes, I don't do any auto updates though, but I think Irkanu, I think you're the one that nailed it there. I think that it must have done an status HTML wrongly set. You don't even WordPress. What the hell are you talking about? So Dan over here, so it's where people will often assume that there's only going to be one row in the inserted table, and there are probably going to be multiple rows inside the inserted table. For those of you who haven't played around with triggers yet, God bless you, because it's absolutely terrible. Captain Ashtar, what TempDB is it's a terrible place down in your parents' basement. They never told you about this, but this is where they keep all the dead bodies. You should probably go ask your parents about it. You've hit that age where it's acceptable for you to go ask. Tell them Brent sent you. All right, so I'm not saying specifically your mom. I'm just saying your parents. It could be either one of them. Just also tell your mom I said hi. So what we're going to do here is after badges get inserted, it's a miracle that they allow me to do this. So when badges get inserted, in here, we're going to do this after insert. We'll say, first thing we have to do is check to see if the user has any badges, has the badge named red shirt. If they have a red shirt badge, oh, this is tricky. Because it happens after the insert, will the inserted table will have a red badge as well? Because what I don't want to do is I don't want to have the trigger say, after we insert a red badge row, then we immediately go, oh, they've got a red badge row. So I might actually need an instead of trigger. Let's just roll with it and go see what happens, because I've only got like half an hour left. If they have a red shirt badge, revoke 10 points of reputation. Update DBO users, or we'll say update you, from inserted, and I never remember, there we go, inserted I, inner join DBO users, you, on I, user ID equals UID, so set reputation equals reputation minus, I always screw that up, minus 10. All right, so what I think that's going to go do is, if we added a, no, it's got to be only for the red shirt badge, where I name equals red shirt. So what this should do is, if they have a red shirt badge already, damn it, no, that's not right. Okay, so where exists, because this would be the row we just inserted. That's not right. What it is where exists, select star from DBO badges, where, and we'll format this just a little bit nicer. Not elegant, but just a little bit nicer. From badges, and I always like to alias stuff, where, hi, night sniping, where where I user ID equals B user ID, and B name equals red shirt. So what this is, I couldn't look at the inserted table because the inserted table has the rows that they're inserting now. That may not be the red shirt badge. Hopefully it's not the red shirt badge. Then down here, I'm saying where they already have a red shirt badge. So I think this is going to revoke 10 points. If I wanted to be really careful, let's also say where I badge, where the I name is anything other than red shirt, and exists that. All right, so I think that does what I want. To be clear, in the course of this stream, I'm not going to check for accuracy yet. I'll check for results sometime else later. So I think that gets the red shirt badge revoked. Now I also got to go delete badges from their account, because first I had to go make sure that they had a red shirt badge before I removed the row. Surly says, yes, exactly. Don't forget to remove the red shirt badge. Otherwise, each time they get a new badge, we'd have a problem. So now let's delete I'm going to call it RS for badge red shirt from DBO badges BRS. Inner join DBO, well, we'll just do the inserted, I, inserted, I on BRS. Actually, I prefer going from the virtual table, from the trigger. It's not like that's going to affect performance, but I just think it makes readability a little easier. From inserted I, inner join DBO badges on I user ID equals BRS user ID, where the inserted badge name is anything other than red shirt. And BRS. Oh, thanks, Captain Ashtar. I appreciate it. And the answer to your question is no. So BRS name equals red shirt. All right, so now I'm saying wherever they got inserted a badge that's anything other than red shirt, and the badge that already exists, it wouldn't be the first time. Remember, going to be referring them to your parents. So down under here, so I'm looking for specifically the badges on their red shirt. Is night sniping, that's a really good question, actually. Is it really that hard? No, you would be stunned at the number of idiots who can do it. Yourself included, for sure. So now I've got that delete set up. It is an experience thing, though. Like, the more experience that you have and the more confidence in yourself, the easier of a time you can do to have it. The tough part about getting into programming, honestly, is the job part. The really hard part is there are generally a large pool of people who want to get paid to do it, and there are only so many job openings available. So that's the part where it gets a little tough. If you want to build something for yourself, like go build an app and go sell it online, or build a site, a plugin, whatever, and sell it online, that's a much easier route to success. If you have business knowledge about here's a problem that industry is facing, then you can go build something to solve that, and you won't be competing for anyone else with programming knowledge. You're really just starting your own empire there. Okay, so we've deleted their badges. I think that's in good shape. Now, I'm not really hammering TempDB at all inside this. The inserted table does get versioned out in TempDB, or is not versioned, but it's handled out as a temp table, basically. So depending on how big this is, that might be a problem. All right. The other thing that I could throw into here is a memory grant. We don't need no stinking badgers. I could try to figure out how I would throw in a memory grant in a trigger. Ooh, I'm gonna leave this in the change log though. I'm gonna say change log to be done later. Add a memory grant and spill, because I won't do that right away here. All right, let's see if that works. So after insert, go update their reputation, delete the badge for red shirt. I think that's pretty good. So let's go put that into place, and we'll test it. So the way that we'll test it, I'll go put this little thing in place. So now I can go look over at the badges table and look at the list of triggers. In order to test it, what I got to go do is I got to give a red shirt badge to somebody, and I'll make that myself just to say. So we'll say insert into DBO badges, name, user ID, date, values, red shirt, my user ID, and the current date. Go. Now, I'm going to go look at my reputation, select star from DBO users. So my reputation, not star, you moron, golly. So where ID equals 26,837. I was proud of that. No one else caught it. I was very proud of that, but yeah. So here, my current reputation. So my current reputation is reputation equals 11,825. Now let's go see what happens if I insert into badges a different badge name. Let's go give myself a very polite streamer badge. We all know how true that is. Go execute that one. Now, yes! Ah. At first, that might not jump out at you as a success, but here's the deal. Whenever you have a trigger, if you don't set no count on, inside the trigger, your messages will tell you everything, doesn't tell you everything the trigger does, but it goes through and tells you that rows were affected in other tables. So what are these? One of these is my own reputation that just got dropped by 10 points, and the other one is the badge that just got removed. So to test it, let's go look at my own users row, and my reputation has now been dropped by 10 points. Yes. And if I go look at welcome to the club, speaker freaker, I need to figure out how to say that. Speaker freak? I'm thinking what that is, speaker freak, which if you're really a speaker freak, you and I share a bond because I really love Dyne Audio speakers. There are a lot of speakers that I love, but my wife won't allow me to have speakers that you can see inside our apartment. I'm only allowed to have speakers that you kind of can't see. So I have Apple HomePods in a couple of places, but then I really want to build a house someday and have a big wall of Dyne Audio speakers and whatever. So now I've added that badge. Let me check and see. Select star from DBO. Badges. Nailed it. Speaker freak. Nice. Where user ID equals 26,837. Order by one descent. Timmy Fireball says, don't let her kill your dreams. God bless her. She's super supportive. I absolutely love her. She's wonderful. So the red shirt badge is gone. That's kind of awesome. And I bought 2 of them. It's kind of crazy. Johnny B. Cat says, I just thought of something. We're not capturing the history of removing and adding badges. And I love that but the problem is it's not going to hit TempDB. I love that in terms of an accidental surprise workload. That's kind of awesome, but yeah. Okay, so we have this, we have it in our trigger and we've tested it. This is fantastic. Let's set no count on inside the trigger just so that it doesn't pop up right away, and then set no count off down here. Set no count off. All right, love it. So my trigger works. Now there's, okay, all right, you're right. I didn't do create or alter. Creator Alter. Man, I love Creator Alter. So I forget whether this came out in 2016 Service Pack when or what exact specific CU it was. But that one line alone to me, that was like, I need to stop and thank Microsoft for that because that was phenomenal. Just love that. Finally, we get a really good usability improvement there. So put that into production. And now let's try our stored procedure again. So I'm going to try my stored procedure one more time. I haven't changed anything about the stored procedure, although you know what I am going to do is I'm going to set no count on inside here, set no count on, just so that he's into as well. And then 100%, just so that we got this done. And then execute. All right, so I'm happy with that. Let's go try to run that one more time. Surly Dove Trance as in wub, 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 wub. Drop if exists. See, I don't like drop if exists because the problem with drop if exists is that you lose permissions when you go to recreate the object. If you do drop if exists and then you create the thing again, it lost whatever permissions assignments that you had. However, I will say what I love about drop if exists is tables. I love dropping tables at the start of demos, and that makes it just way easier. Love that. It's fantastic. Okay, so we have Surly Dev. Surly Dev, you're my moderator. I need to be able to trust you. You've got to keep it together. It's not true. It's pretty casual shop around here. Table users' names. So now we'll go ahead and try our little trick again here. What we'll do is we'll put in the very tiny plan into memory. We'll go back and run the big plan, and we'll measure what the effect looks like on TempDB. So over on the left-hand side, let me separate this out into different windows here. New vertical tab group. Walden says, I've never turned it off in triggers. I don't want you to get the impression that I know that off the top of my head. Literally, the only reason why I put that on there is I haven't written a trigger in probably a year or two. I have no idea where the scope begins and ends. I just immediately thought, oh, if I'm turning it on, I'll go turn it back off at the bottom. What you just saw me do there, don't take it as a best practice. Like, I just have no idea if you need to do that or not. I always want to be clear with what I know and what I don't know, which is most things. So on the left-hand side, I'm going to start my SP Blitz first sample again. I'm actually going to pop it up to 2 minutes. I'm even tempted to pop it to 3 minutes just because I don't know how long this query is going to take. So we'll go start the first version of this. The first version should be fairly quick and straightforward. Now that I ran it, even just for the first one, you'll also see as I scroll down through the execution plan, there will also be, woohoo, the execution plan for the triggers. So we have the triggers inside here as well. Balakrishna, it's for the whatever your query's scope is. So like if you're doing a select and it built a work table, the work table will die when the select finishes. All right, so now we did that one. Now, and I just love that it's doing much more work behind the scenes. Ooh, it's got a sort, hot dog. It's got a sort inside there. I might be able to get that to screw up the memory grant again later. I got another sort up here too as well. Today's music is Childish Gambino. So now let's try it for a big monster date range. Let's go start our SP Blitz first sample and then start the stored procedure. I expect this to take at least a minute because it was taking a minute whenever we were doing this without the trigger, and now we've added the trigger, so I expect it to take a longer period of time. What I'm looking for, I don't really care as much about the execution plan right here, although I'll be interested to see if we get sorts inside the trigger that spill to disk, because that would be freaking amazing. Parameter sniffing inside a trigger, are you kidding me? That's gold. I have a twisted definition of what gold is. Then on the far left-hand side, what I am going to be interested in is how much did we write to TempDB during the course of this. So if Dimitri's still on the call, my goal for this call, WebEx, stream, whatever, my goal for this will be if I can get this thing to hit parameter sniffing, spill to disk, do the version store stuff in, the next thing that I'll do is introduce this into a SQL query stress load. And Dimitri, you know this from the mastering classes, but over in the mastering classes, we run SQL query stress with a wide variety of queries that are all running simultaneously. That will be the key that'll keep the version store around longer because I'll be pushing lots of activity in, causing this update to take longer, causing the TempDB activity to grow. I don't want to run this query across a whole lot of threads because I don't think that that's realistic from an end user perspective. Because you're in the mastering classes, I'll just give you the code in there for that. So if you want to try SQL query stress across lots of threads with this for synthetic purposes, you could. The query actually finished after 1:22, which kind of surprises me in a nice, delightful way. So the query finished after 1:22, which is good. So now let's go look at the execution plan just to see if we got lucky and got spills on the trigger. So we have spills here. We always had spills here. And if I went to a higher number for my top, then I'm pretty sure, or if I took out the top altogether, if I stopped pretending it was a batch operation, then I could make that spill even worse. If I come down here further, That one did not have anything that would spill to disk. SQL Server only estimated that one row was going to come out of the table variable, but that estimate had a really small blast radius because nothing spilled to disk. I could throw something into that insert into badges to force an order, which would do a spill if I wanted to take this again to the next level. Coming down a little further on here, we have a yellow bang on our update. What's the story there? Yes, well, kind of, sort of. If I look at, always my SQL weatherman here, this is warning, danger, I gave you way too much RAM. Well, I got excited about that, but that's the opposite of the problem that I'm trying to fix here. I'm trying to encourage spills, which means SQL Server wouldn't have granted enough memory. I did the opposite here. So that's not that big of a deal. Now, when I looked, I was like, it's not that bad. The grant size is fairly small, so who really cares? But if I go down a little further, let's see if we got anything on that sort. So we have the delete. How's our yellow bang on the delete? Again, excessive grant, so that's not as nice as I would prefer. Then if I come down here, now I got a sort on that. That's kind of nice. So this is okay. Oh, the reason why those other ones, so the reason why the triggers are estimating low memory grants is because they don't have red shirt badges. These people don't have red shirt badges yet. Okay, so it did spill to disk a couple of times. Now is the moment of truth. So now, so this thing still only wrote 60 megabytes of stuff to TempDB. And this is kind of a blessing and a curse. So when we started out with this, the whole reason that we're in here today is that in one of the mastering classes, Dimitri asked a wonderful question. When would I be worried about stored procedures or other things passing themselves data back and forth in TempDB? And I'm like, it's been a really long time since I've seen anything involving TempDB as an issue, as long as you did one of two things. As long as you created enough TempDB data files and you put your TempDB on reasonably fast storage. And by reasonably fast storage, I mean typically as fast as at least an iPad, just general flash storage. So I'm very happy with this. I think we did pretty well in terms of showing that even when you're trying to abuse TempDB in a little bit of an accidental way, it's not really that bad. I'm going to do one final thing, which is I'm going to take off the top. Instead of just processing 100,000 rows at a time, I'm going to process the whole crew. I'm also going to do something unrealistic in the where clause. I'm going to say that everybody gets a red shirt badge. So let's see. So this one is going to be the last Mythbusters style attempt to blow this stored procedure up. So in here, before I had a top 100,000. I'm going to comment that out so that we're actually getting everyone. And then I don't know that SQL Server won't optimize out that order by whenever I don't have a top. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave the top in, but I'm going to put a ridiculously high number. I'm going to put up a higher number than we even have in terms of users at Stack Overflow. So this is 100,000. Obviously, I can't use commas when I put the number in, but just to show you, I'm going to put 100 million in. There aren't 100 million users at Stack Overflow, but this way I just will still get the memory grant. And even if SQL, I won't have to worry about SQL Server optimizing out the order by. SQL Server will actually need to do the ordering. So that's kind of cool. So let's go get everyone. We're going to say we're last access date. Okay, good. That's all perfect. We're going to insert anything. That left outer join is fine. That update is fine. I think we're good there. Let's also, for the ultimate stress test, we're going to go make sure that we have the very first date, the very first date of activity, and the very last date of activity inside here. So when I go run this stored procedure, so right now we're running it for, hi Richard, good to see you again as well. So right now we're running it from 2009 to 2020. I'm going to say 1970 to 2037, just to make sure that I catch every single user. Part one is I put the tiny plan in memory. So let's go to him, execute. Now, I'm going to turn around and run the big plan. Now, the big plan took 90 seconds before. I have no idea how long this is going to take now that I'm running the whole entire table. Anshu, man of very few words. Even no words and just an @ symbol. I bet you're popular. People love you around the Anshu. God bless them, Anshu. It's like, stop picking on me. In that the Anshu, if you want small trivia, the @ sign, the people in Amsterdam call that the strudel. I think that's the strudel. So it might not even be Amsterdam. It might be somewhere else that they do that. I can't quite remember. So let's start our SP Blitz first sample, and then we'll go start our red shirt grant. Now, before, this was taking about 90 seconds, and I have no idea how long it's going to take now that I'm not batching it. And it may not even finish by the time that I need to go downstairs and go get coffee. So while it runs, I'm going to do a quick shout out to our sponsor. So my sponsor this week is Quest Software. Quest is doing a totally free webcast with me and Panal Dave. So for those of you who wanted to be able to ask us questions, or you were firing off random stuff as, who is my daddy and what does he do? Questions inside of the stream, you're welcome to go ask those questions during this stream. So this one is what we call an Ask the Experts. Mike Shaw. Mike, I actually have written down, I don't have a lot of stuff written down outside my desk, but I actually wrote down so that I would remember. It's probably not even going to focus worth a damn. That's okay. You get the idea. But I actually wrote your name down so that I would remember this time and stop calling you Mark. So he's like, hold on, I want to take a picture. So in this webcast, you can ask us whatever questions that you want around performance. Just one thing to know, there's always a limit of last time it was 1,000 people were allowed into the webcast, and we knocked that completely to the top and people couldn't get in. If you want to get in, it's not enough to register. You also have to show up a little early. Like even if you're 5 minutes early, you're going to be fine. Because so many wackos just try sliding in sideways at like 5 minutes after the hour. Like, oh, where am I? So brentozar.com/go/experts. Those are always a lot of fun, just because I love talking to Panal. We have a great time doing that. A drop table employee says that in Russia they call the @ and I'm not even going to try to pronounce that, which literally translates as dog. Oh, that's kind of cool. I don't know why that either. I mean, it makes me think of so do you know about the dog's magic button? You know about a dog's magic button? You know how that works? You may not know. I don't know if y'all have heard about the magic button before or not. We'll see if anybody puts their notes in on Slack or Twitch or whatever, saying that they know what the magic button is. Richard says over on YouTube, @ is a strudel in Israel. Netherlands, we call it the monkey tail. Sabaka is another. No, so I don't think y'all know what a dog's magic button is. So when we were kids, my uncle, Gail, so Anshu, I'm not going to talk about that one inside here just because we're at the end of the webcast. It's a good question, but feel free to ask that during the webcast with Quest. So I'll leave y'all with a story. So when I was a kid, we had this Uncle Gail, and he would tell the kids that dogs have a magic button. And if you can touch the magic button, you get a piece of candy. And so what the magic button was the dog's butthole. So you would see all these little kids in the family, at family gatherings, running around trying to touch the dog's magic button. And our poor dog would run around constantly trying to look, who's coming up on my rear end? And of course, there's no such thing as a magic button, but it was hilarious because, with dogs, you can kind of see it. So now, for those of you who don't have children, that's a great thing to go, a great gift to go gag, to go play whenever you're at family events. Isn't that terrible? God, it's just so awful. So my 90-second sample ended. And over here on the left-hand side, I can see that TempDB did have write activity during that time span. And the way that this works, the way that SP Blitz First monitoring works, is it shows you the top 5 files ordered by activity descending. Well, it just so happens that Stack Overflow's data files had more activity than TempDB did during that time span. You can see that TempDB had reads of a fairly decent amount, but not necessarily writes yet, or the writes that it had were fairly small. So what I'm going to have to do in order to instrument this for the mastering server tuning classes is I'm probably going to just change SP Blitz First to return more data, or else we'll go look at the output table from SP Blitz First instead of looking directly at this. Because the output tables for SP Blitz First actually include all of the rows, not just the top 5 by reads and writes. So there we go. So Hopefully y'all learned something or had some fun throughout the course of this morning. Thanks for hanging out with me. I will now go vanish off to my downstairs coffee shop. It is a beautiful morning out here in San Diego. The rain has cleared, thank goodness. We had drizzle early on, so it looks like I'm going to be able to walk down there and go get myself a nice fresh cup of coffee. The replays for this, for those of y'all who got in late, the replays will be up on Twitch, Facebook, YouTube, Mixer, all those sites. And I don't think I'll do a blog post with this because it's not really relevant to most of the blog post readers. It's just fun exploring in terms of T-SQL. Life legacy, do high elevators freak anyone else out? It depends on their speed. So like I've lived in buildings before, like 50-story buildings that would get me to 50 floors within 15 seconds. That freaked me out. That was insanely fast. So thanks everybody for hanging out, and I will see y'all next time. Adios. Have a good weekend.